Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 119-107 win against the Philadelphia 76ers. Ryker, the past week the Toronto Raptors struggled, losing 3 of 4, but the past couple games they've really bounced back.
Yeah, and tonight was a weird game. Obviously, with the big news of Kyle Lowry's name being put out there in a potential trade with the Memphis Grizzlies. The current offer, it didn't fall through, but he is aware of it. His camp is aware of it. Also with the impending sense that everybody could be traded for Anthony Davis that we've heard on Inside the Green Room with Danny Green. Everybody's a bit worried that they could be traded. It's good to see them all come out there, and perhaps it's a point to prove that they should still be on the team, that they're valuable to the Raptors, or perhaps they're just kind of putting it all behind them and ignoring what's going on and circulating around. Because, obviously, all the teams are putting in bids for basically all their players for, Anthony Davis and whatnot. So it's good to see a commanding victory against the 76ers.
Yeah, for sure. The Philadelphia 76ers, without a J.J. Redick tonight, but still, they had Jimmy Butler, they had Ben Simmons, they had Joel Embiid, they had most of their team, and, the Toronto Raptors came out and from start to finish really handled the Philadelphia 76ers. It got close at times, but there's no real point where the Raptors really let it get out of hand. Joel Embiid had a solid game for the Sixers tonight, but, they were the Raptors' big three, the guys that you really want to, maybe are more veteran players, because Siakam's really integrated himself as the second most scoring option this season. But Kawhi Leonard, Serge Ibaka, and Kyle Lowry really played well tonight. Yeah,
100%. You can speak to it a bit more. I really tuned in around the third and fourth quarter here, but it seemed to me like it was a super well all-around game. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make a point right now, a bit of a tangentially here. But a guy that I was extremely impressed with, if we can jump in talking about him first, Greg Monroe. Because he was just working down low tonight, at least every moment that I was watching. And I've been really criticizing Greg Monroe. And he was finishing down low, getting some good offensive rebounds. I don't know if you saw his game as good as I thought it was.
Yeah, for sure. 10.7 rebounds for Greg Monroe. And this is what we kind of want out of Greg Monroe. Obviously, he didn't have the greatest plus-minus and didn't have a phenomenal defensive game as obviously Joel Embiid when he was switched on to Monroe. Really, it was really barbecue chicken. But see, Greg Monroe's our third-string center. He's supposed to be our guy that's insurance with Jonas out, obviously, and should be able to come in and not be a negative. And obviously, defensively, he's not really there, as a quality defensive big man. But offensively, he can really do these sorts of things. We'd like to say night in, night out.
Actually,
but obviously,
you are right though. I'm looking at his plus minus now, and he was the only negative player.
But when he's producing on the offensive end, he's not really, obviously the plus minus, it doesn't tell everything, but it wasn't great tonight. But he was producing, and the Raptors, when the Sixers were going against our bench, and they were going on a run, the Raptors needed a couple buckets. Greg Monroe really got those buckets when they were needed down, I believe it was the fourth quarter, the beginning of the fourth. So shout out to Greg Monroe on that front. But, we're talking about the bench right now, and the guy that I really want to talk about is Norman Powell. 14 points off the bench, really just had an all-around. He didn't do much like in the box score-wise in terms of rebounding and assists. He had one steal, but defensively and ability to put the ball in the hoop, Norman Powell really did a lot for me tonight.
And did it in an efficient time as well, only 16 minutes of play, and he's able to get these numbers. It's what we've already said about Norman Powell now since he's been on the rise from having his incredibly long slump that's made us really sad about the contract that he had. But now that he's on the rise, you're like, this is what we want, a 10-plus point per game.
Yeah, for sure. Like the past month and a half, ever since he came back from that injury, he's just been at a top-notch level. And, we might have to make a pod soon because, the hot takes that I made at the beginning of the season, some of them are sounding less hot takes. I mentioned how Norman Powell might slide into the starting shooting guard position. Now, Danny Green, 2 points tonight, but he's been pretty solid all year. That might be something that Nick Nurse looks at, and when he tries to spice up the Raptors lineups, especially when if we go through stretches like we did this past week.
Yeah, I can see it being a possibility that he fiddles with the lineup, Nick Nurse, but we'll get a more conclusive idea of what sort of the game plan is going forward after the All-Star break, of course, after Thursday, because we could see
A completely different team.
A completely different team. We could see Norman Powell shipped out. We could see any given player sent away and any given player brought back. So really, we'll have to reserve what's going to happen to all these guys. It's good. It's promising to see, right? This is something that we discussed, gosh, I don't even know how long ago it was. But for me, I was saying any better output from Norman Powell is only a positive thing, because he's either increasing his trade value and then we can get rid of his contract and get another player back, right? Because other teams will see that he's playing well, or we keep him and then it's like, oh, his potential is actually realized, and this is a player that, what we saw when we offered him the contract extension, now we're actually getting the productivity that entails that sort of money, right? So
I'm telling you, D Wade with a 3-point shot, that's Norman Powell.
Listen, D Wade is an honorary all-star. That's the kind of player D Wade is. Norman Powell is nowhere near that, but I appreciate the reference.
Yo, that's the mindset we were all in a couple of years back. But hopefully he can get back to giving us that hope. But we talked about the bench, but the starting unit definitely. We should definitely chat about these guys. Well, Kyle Lowry, 20 points, 6 assists.
This is good.
When Kyle Lowry plays at this level, I mentioned it on the pod today. I made that quick reaction to the trade that you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. I was really shook up about it. And obviously it's not looking like it's going through. And apparently Marc Gasol might be getting sent to Charlotte. That's a new development. It's not official yet, but that's just some news to throw out there. But I really, unless we're getting someone really nice back, Kyle Lowry is not a guy we should just dangle out there, especially with his trade value so low.
Well, this is a perfect point. Okay, finish your point, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, because when Kyle Lowry does everything in terms of leadership, making sure everything's going together, gelling defensively, offensively. He's a phenomenal leader and passer and facilitator, playmaker. But the issue with Kyle Lowry is he hasn't been able to score the ball this season, and when he's capable of doing that, when he's hitting the 3-point shots, he is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. And tonight, we saw it. We handily beat the Sixers. I'd say Kawhi Leonard had a very poor shooting night from the field. Did a good job from the free throw line. But Kyle Lowry, when he's playing well, Serge Ibaka always plays well, or whoever's at that center position. Pascal always gets buckets. Kyle Lowry's a plus 13 for the game. I don't want to just get rid of Kyle Lowry for nothing, despite his injuries, despite his inconsistencies.
Perfect. Okay, so really great point. We're gonna do the comment of the day, okay? Normally it's at the beginning, but I was torn whether or not I wanted to go through the comment of the day, because normally we take a comment from the previous reaction, but we've been missing a couple of games. But this is a perfect point to bring up, and then maybe we can actually just swing into the segments after. But Toronto Man, a staple of the Raptors Digest in the comments section. Toronto Man, he completely agrees that a full, healthy Lowry is absolutely dangerous, but anything less than that really hurts us. That's facts right there. Whatever happens, I trust Masai no matter how many tears must be shed over my Toronto Raptor shrine. So he's basically saying he'll accept whether Masai decides to ship him up or ship him out or hang on to him. Obviously, there's more issues than just his productivity. There's chemistry issues, and then there's attitude. Those two things that we don't really know so much about, things that are going on in the locker room. But the main point here is, if Kyle Lowry is healthy, then he can be productive, right? So this is the big question here now. You're saying that you don't want to see Kyle Lowry shipped out for nothing in return, basically.
Not even nothing. Like, Kyle Lowry's a very valuable piece. And obviously Mike Conley and Gasol will be a great acquisitions, but they're older, and I think it's a kind of a downgrade. I don't want to downgrade Kyle Lowry.
Okay, but it's a huge if with an asterisk, because this injury here is not something that's going to go away. And also, Kyle Lowry is also not a guy who you're able to build around anymore, because he's on his way out in terms of age and in terms of what he's able to do on the court. So this big if with an asterisk, if he can stay healthy, right? Not from what you just saw tonight, but what your gut instinct has said. We're going to go hot take of all possible hot takes here before we swing into the segment. Is it worth it to put this to bed in this podcast? Is it worth it to hang on to Kyle Lowry this season? Is it worth it? Because what we're trying to accomplish here is a deep playoff push, right? And we're going to be extremely disappointed if it's less than conference finals. But even more than that, it needs to be finals, basically. So,
100%.
Is it worth it to keep Kyle Lowry on the roster?
As I mentioned in the video, we talked about Kyle Lowry. I think it'd be stupid for the Toronto Raptors to trade him now, unless Masai can fleece a team. But, Kyle Lowry's 32 years old. He has these back injuries. We're not going to get much on the trade market for Kyle Lowry. He's one of those assets where, the projection for Kyle Lowry in the future, it's not going to bring many assets back. And you mentioned it. This is the season we're going all out. We're trying to get to the finals. We're trying to prove to Kawhi that the Toronto Raptors can have a contender built around him. And honestly, if Kyle Lowry's injured, we're not going to get someone better to replace him back. We still have some point guard inserted, so it won't be a complete, awful playoff run if he's not 100%. But the peak Toronto Raptors team, in all likelihood, unless, Masai can fleece a team, as I've prefaced, but I don't think that's going to happen. The best possible Toronto Raptors team is with a healthy Kyle Lowry, and we're out here. The only way we're going to get to the finals, the only way we're going to achieve the goals that we want to achieve is putting the best possible, giving ourselves a shot at the best possible product come May, June. And, I don't think downgrading Kyle Lowry for a bit more insurance on the injury side is a smart move for the Toronto Raptors this season. So I don't want to see Kyle Lowry go. I don't want to see him in a move unless it's for like Anthony Davis, unless it's for a player that's transcendental and will be helpful in the playoffs, be a guaranteed all-star, one of those types of players.
Fair enough, but this whole argument rests on if he's going to be healthy, and I'm doubtful. I'm not necessarily saying that he's not going to be, but I'm certainly doubtful.
That's what I'm saying. Rest him for a month.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. It makes sense, but that's why I'd like to see a little trade happen so we can bring in another playmaker during this resting period, right? And if we need to ship up a couple of pieces away, a couple of the younger guys, and go to rely on an 8-man roster like the likes of the Houston Rockets do or the Oklahoma City Thunder do.
Yeah. Well, the Sixers ran 8 players tonight,
right? That's the recipe for a success in the team. Oop. I have Alexa going on in the background. You know what? We're just going to run through with the playoffs here. Thank you, Alexa. All right, to continue on. How about you take us away?
We'll keep that in the podcast. We won't even edit that.
We're not going to edit it.
We're not going to edit it. We're going straight into the segments. Alexa's making the transitions. All right, tonight, the Kawhi you do him like that. Play of the day. Tonight, it's got, I don't know if you have one in mind, but OG Anunoby. He's had a rough stretch. 2 points tonight, +7 for the game, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 for 5 from the field. But that spin layup that he had on his first field goal was real nice. And you know what? We got to give OG Anunoby some encouragement with his struggles and all those sorts of things. I got to give him a positive. He's getting bagged on a lot. He kind of deserves it the way he's playing. We're all just hoping and rooting for OG to get over whatever he's been dealing with. Our prayers are out there for OG. And
he's not on his deathbed.
Yeah, honestly, basketball-wise, he's looking like it pretty recently. I wanted to give a nice Kawhi do of him like that, a few words of encouragement to OG, because if he can turn into the player, even the player he was last season, the Raptors are going to be even more nasty.
Well, you know what? Not all plays can be the Kawhi you do him like that play of the day. Some just make you say OGs, and I'm going to give it to OG. You're saying that he needs this celebration that he's out here doing good, but he got disgustingly blocked by Joel Embiid, and so for as much good as he did with his little spin move, it's coming right back to him for getting absolutely denied above the rim. Thankfully, our boy Greg Monroe was there to clean it up and finish that bully ball offense. So I'm sorry, OG, but it's the good and the bad. You're just breaking even here.
Hot take, Ryker.
All right.
Hot take. I want to throw it out on a pod. I'm telling you, February 20th. In the February 20s, OG is going to turn it around, and he's going to come back to the OG Anunoby we all know and love. I said it earlier in the season, February's the month he's coming. I'm giving it a specific week. Around February 20th, that's when OG's turning it around. You heard it here first. If he isn't, I'm going to be really sad.
Okay, but I mean, to be fair, there is no OG that we know and love because he's really just a cold classic. He's never been a 10-point player guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not.
But a guy that's locked down defensively and can hit open threes and can slash is capable of slashing.
But that wasn't his role last year either. He wasn't hitting open threes. He would hit some threes. He was really just. He was just a defensive
threes
guy.
At a high clip last season.
He was just a defensive guy. Listen, this is a conversation. He wasn't a 3-and-D guy. He was just a guy who had potential. He was a guy who had potential.
Starter on a 60-win team, Ryker. Almost 60-win. Anyways,
all right.
Finally, the infamous the one and only Damari Carroll Gold Star Award. And tonight, I don't know if you have one in mind, but it's going to Nick Nurse. It's going to my guy Nick Nurse. He ran. It's not because of some of the weird. The Sixers ran a lot of doubles at our guys down the stretch of the game, and if it was closer, we had a lot of turnovers. Fortunately, our defense was good enough where we capitalized on a lot of the Sixers' turnovers. So, yeah, we got a lot of steals, and they, Ben Simmons had a good few turnovers, 6 turnovers. Joel Embiid had 4, but regardless of that, that's a part of the Gold Star Award for me. But the main one is Norman Powell. We mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast. He hasn't been getting run, but he's been playing at such a high level as of late. There's a lot of stretches where the starters are playing heavy minutes. Give Norm some run in there, especially if Danny Green's struggling the way he is tonight. Give Norm more run when he's shooting 5 or 6 from the free.
You know what?
From the field.
I'll tell you this. I don't agree with that because one of my biggest issues is role confusion, right? And I think that it's almost nice to let Norman Powell settle into what his consistent role is going to be, right? Because we're not going to bank on Danny Green always having a poor performance from the field, right? And we're going to not bank on games where we're blowing out the 76ers. We're going to have close games where you're going to have to rely on the starters. You're going to have to rely on Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry. They're going to have to play 35, 37, 38 minutes, right?
Yep.
Norman Powell is going to be 15 to 20 minutes per game. And I think it's nice to let him get that and be like, how much can you do with that time, right? Because it's fine for him to get 22 points, let's say, from 25 minutes, but the next game he's not going to get 25 minutes as well. So let's give him time to say, maximize your potential here, and if you're going out night in and night out, and you are being by far the more consistent guy than Danny Green, then, like you said, let's slide him into the starting lineup.
Okay, that's a very fair point, and I agree that role confusion is something that's really affected Norm the past few years. I think that's probably his biggest struggle last season, that can be blamed there. But the one thing is, Fred VanVleet got 25 minutes tonight off the bench. DeLon Wright got 18 minutes. Greg Monroe got 18 minutes. Norman Powell only 16, and he really outplayed the rest of those guys. I guess Monroe played pretty well the second half. But when Fred VanVleet's struggling, DeLon Wright's struggling, don't take Norm out before those guys. You got to ride the hot hand a little bit.
All right. Okay, so we got a big day on Thursday. We got some hot trades. We got everything. This is real exciting time. Good win, but who knows? When they play Atlanta, the team could be completely different or a little bit different.
Trae Young's been nasty as of late, so that should be a good game.
There you go. And the old Vince Carter reunion, I guess.
Yeah, true. It could be his last game against the Raptors. I don't know if we play the Hawks again. Regardless, you guys are the best for making it this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. These pods are always greater when the Raptors are winning and we're back putting them out consistently. Any last words, Ryker?
To everybody that called in today, we're putting that podcast up tomorrow. It was a good bit of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and maybe we'll do it again because I had a pretty good time.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully no trades go down between when that goes on.
True.
Anyways, you guys are the best. Rock out.
Cheers.